Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host Zara Pedersen, and today we're going to talk about a question that I get a lot, which is what am I supposed to do in the meantime? In the meantime being after I've made the dua, after I've taken the action and surrendered my timeline and things like that. What am I supposed to do in the meantime until my manifestation comes? And I understand this question from the perspective that it is coming from. And today I am hoping to change that perspective up a bit for you so that you know what to do in that quote unquote meantime. So for you who might be sitting out there right now thinking, okay, well, I have done all the work. I followed the framework and I made it to step 7, and now I'm like, the manifestation's still not arrived. Like, what am I doing wrong? What have I not done correct? What am I missing? The thing still hasn't come. Does that mean I'm not worthy of it? And the thing is that you're never truly done. Until the manifestation comes, or until whatever it is that needs to happen has happened, you're not done. And while you're in this sort of meantime phase, in this waiting phase where you're waiting to see when the manifestation is coming, you've done the work the first time around, you actually need to continue to do the same work. Yeah, that sucks, doesn't it? It doesn't sound very thrilling, it doesn't sound very exciting, but it's the truth. You have to go back again and look at your goal. Has your goal changed? Look at your intention. We spoke last week in an episode here on the podcast about niyyah and why it's so important to take stock of it. So look at that again. Look at what actions you could be further taking. Look at yourself. What work are you doing for yourself? What mindset changes do you still need to work on? What things are you still struggling with? What things have you been postponing doing? What things could you be doing that you know would probably make things easier, but for whatever reason there's some fear around it, and so you still haven't done it? Even to the point of, your gratitude. Are you fully showing gratitude and feeling grateful for the things that you have while wanting more? There is always something that can be done. And what we need to stop doing, in fact, and this is how I know that people are not quite ready for their manifestation yet, is because they're still thinking of it as a, well, then what? As if there's like a plan A, B, C, D, E, and then when we get to the end of the alphabet, that's it, done. And in reality, it just continues looping. And once we understand that, we don't look at it as a from A to B. It's a constant journey. It's a constant development that you have to go into, because while you might move closer to the original manifestation that you've wanted, certain things could have changed, whether it be for the people around you, for yourself, for the manifestation itself, your intentions. You might have discovered some things that are happening in your subconscious when you're doing the mindset work that you're like, wow, okay, that actually changes the way that I view the manifestation and the thing that I really wanted or thought I wanted. And so, it's a constant journey. It's a constant evolving. It's a constant working on yourself. And it's a constant taking stock. I know what you're thinking. And no, you're absolutely right. It is not a romantic piece of work. And it's not necessarily something that you're going to be excited to hear. It's like non-stop work. But that is the truth of the whole thing. That is the reality of it. Very much as my favorite example is, you don't just say your shahada one time and that's it, you're granted heaven. That would be too easy, right? You have to continue praying. You have to continue fasting every year. You have to continue being a good person. It's not enough to be a good person one time. You actually have to put in that effort again and again and again. You constantly have to assess your life. You constantly have to assess your effort as a Muslim and your intentions with the things that you do. And it's very much the same kind of work that you have to do when it comes to the law of attraction, because the law of attraction is not different different from Islam. It's not different from the fact that it's something that Allah has created, another tool for us to move closer to Him by Him allowing certain blessings to come into our life by using methods that are already discussed in the Quran and in the Hadiths, but also by expanding our understanding of ourselves and our free will and our ability to choose the direction that our life can go in within the directions that Allah has made available to us. So it is not about, oh, I did the framework one time, or I did the belief breakthrough mindset course one time. So where are my results? Where are the changes? Where's the riches? Where's the abundance? Where's my husband? Where's this, that, and the other? It is a constant work. You have to do it more than once, because every time you do it one time, you realize something new. It's kind of like going to therapy. Those of you like myself who've gone to therapy before, you may realize quickly or sometime along that journey that you're on with your therapist that it's kind of a never-ending work, because you're constantly evolving as a person. Your experiences, the things that you're seeing, touching, feeling, the people that you're meeting, the things you reject, the things you accept, they're constantly changing us or have influences and impacts on us. That means that we are constantly learning new things about ourselves. And that is the same thing that can be said about the law of attraction and wanting to manifest something. So if you're finding yourself sitting at a point where you're thinking, well, I've done the work, now what? What am I supposed to do in the meantime? So now I've, done the mindset work and I'm feeling really good about that. Now what? Now what? The now what and what to do in the meantime until your manifestation comes is continue to do the work. There is never a now what. And isn't that just, a sucker punch to really sucker punch the life out of you sometimes, or like the will to continue? I know it can be for me, sometimes to feel like, oh, it's just never ending. Like sometimes I'm very much, speaking from a personal perspective, the kind of person who loves when I can do work where I can see the beginning, the middle, and the end, which is also why I'm a massive fan of cleaning videos online, because I can see the difference and it is immediate. It's not about like, oh, I come back to this spot again and again and again. Sometimes those are out there, but they're not my favorite. But I want the ones where I can see the spot and then it immediately removes the spot. If you remember those old shopping network channels where they had like a vacuum and you could see it hoover up the mess immediately, it was so satisfactory. And a lot of people have that same I guess it's like release of endorphins that happens when we see immediate results. And we very much, of course, as I've mentioned several times, and that we all are so aware of, live in a world where, where immediate gratification and satisfaction is almost expected. We get it from like, oh, I put a picture up, I think I look good, and we immediately see the likes and the comments flooding in. We get that immediate endorphin because we're just so connected with things that way. And it's the same with our businesses. We can create a business and we can have a client tomorrow if we've set it up correctly, right? And certain things in the world are just not like that, unfortunately. Law of attraction being one of them. We can definitely, at some point or another, see that immediate difference or feel the immediate difference from working on our gratitude. Some people will get their manifestations much quicker than others. Some people will get that blessing a lot faster because it's just their time. And some of us have to wait for some of the blessings while some of the other blessings come in quick. And regardless of whether or not your manifestation comes in 24 hours or in 24 years, the process remains the same. And the process should not change as a result of that. It should still be the same. You keep coming back to gratitude. You keep surrendering your timeline and your expectation of the plan or whatever, the manifestation of how it's supposed to come in. You keep taking the inspired action. You keep having to check in with your intentions, your niyyah. Make sure you're looking at that goal. Be specific, but able to surrender it. There are taking all of those steps constantly, making sure that you're constantly checking in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in the Quran, and do they not reflect upon themselves? And he does not mean that to be, they just reflected one time and great for them, they got a little boost and then they stopped. It's a constant self-reflection. It is even to the point where, and I'm going to use another example from my private life, and I'm actually going to use my dad as an example of this, because I look at my dad, who was born into a Christian home, and I think he had that confirmation thing that they do when you're 13. In Denmark, at least. I don't know if they do it the rest of the world as well. I think they do in many other Christian countries. But sorry, I fully just did an inward burp. I'm sorry if you heard that. I'm just going to leave it in because it is what it is. No, I'm nasty. I can't help it. So anyway, so he did that. And then in his teen years, he started traveling. My dad was born in the 50s. And so his 60s, in the 60s, he was in his teen years, and in the 70s, he was in his 20s. So you can just imagine the kind of background my dad has, really being a bit of a hippie child and traveling through Africa and India. He was, I think, a Buddhist or a Hindu for some time. I can't remember which one of the two, to be honest. For some time, probably even both of them, dabbled in both those religions, and he really took some time to find his own way into Islam, and I really admire him for that. And I look at him as such a true Muslim in a lot of ways. And I know that's a horrible thing to say in that way, because everybody who believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a Muslim, and of course that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was his messenger, and in the angels. But true Muslim in that he fully chose Islam, fully chose it for himself. And I've never known my father not to pray his salah, for instance. My father has always prayed his salah 5 times a day, alhamdulillah. And he rarely misses a prayer. Very rare. There has to be some very big circumstances for him to miss a prayer. And you would think that, he's done it now for 40 years, I think. Almost 40 years of being a Muslim. And you'd think, okay, he feels pretty confident in that and whatever. And he's still learning to get better in his salah. And I admire that about him, because you think, 40 years of praying, you're probably like, whatever, I'm just continuing doing what I'm doing now because that's what's working. But he finds new levels, new du'as, ways to elevate his prayers. He prays for longer. He, stays in prayer longer, learns new verses of the Quran to recite while in prayer. And anything that he can to basically continue the journey of learning and evolving and growing as a Muslim towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah reward him many times for it, inshallah, ameen. But that's just an example of a place where I see such consistency within my own private life with my dad. And I admire it so much. And where a lot of people would be like, well, I've done the work. I've already prayed. It's fine. What else can I do? And it's like, okay, yeah, you've done it. You've checked it off your list, but you can still do it better. You can still evolve in it. You can make it more powerful. You can elaborate on it. You can experiment with it, make it more enjoyable, really connect deeper with it. And it's the same way that I would encourage you to look at the law of attraction. So even though you've done the mindset work one time, perhaps revisiting the mindset work, looking at, well, how can I delve further into this? How can I look at more stuff in my subconscious? I know that there's this door every time I'm like in my meditations looking at my mindset. There's this doorway, and I'm too scared to look in there because that's the big trauma. And if I unravel that, then I might unravel. And hey, maybe it's time to look at how else could I, go into that trauma and work on that part of myself. But there's always a new way. There's always another way of looking at the same work again and doing it a little bit better or from a different perspective that'll help unlock a different thing or another thing. And that's the way we have to look at it. You might, and I think this is the one thing that sometimes, even as a coach, like I fully understand it. And listen, I'm only human too. So, cut me some slack here, okay? But when people say, but I'm already grateful, I oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to admit this. There's like a little part of me that can go like, oh, stop being such a little brat about it, because we're all grateful to whatever extent, but we can always, extend our gratitude. And I'm not meaning it from a hurtful place. Oh my God, I can't believe I actually just like admitted that out loud. But trust when I say it's not coming from a place of malice or, oh, I'm better than you or anything like that. It's coming from a place of, I want you to see beyond your own restrictions. I want you to understand that even the things you think you're doing really, really good right now, you can go so much beyond and so much further with it. If you just stop thinking that just because it's done one time, it's finished. Just because it's done one time does not mean it's finished. It means that now you've done it one time, you know how it's done. So now you can really try and experiment with it, open up the practice, look deeper, go in with more courage, with more, just what's it called when you're confident. So go in with more confidence this time. Maybe invite new people into it, to the work that you're doing. Share it with more people, whatever it might be. Journal on it next time. There are so many different ways that you can look at the same work over and over again. And again, I know that this might not be the answer that most people want to hear, because we want to have that sort of, I've done the work, now I want the result, now I want the payoff. But this is not one of those things, because law of attraction, as much as there are physical 3D elements to it, as in I can sit down and meditate for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and I can journal for 5 sentences or 5 pages. I can, there's these physical things I can make, the dua, and I can get up. So in this 3D, I feel my effort as I'm doing it. A lot of it is also the spiritual world, the spiritual things that we don't see, feel, touch, or hear, or smell, or anything. But sometimes we can feel it, sometimes, not all the times. A lot of it, it's very much beyond our capacity to even feel the work that we're doing. But we know it's happening because we have an understanding that the world is more than just what we see. We know that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. There are things in this world that we don't see. Animals smell and see things, colors that we cannot even fathom are there. And so for us to limit ourselves by thinking, I've done the work in the 3D, so khalas, it must be done, that's it. And not understanding there's so much more that goes into it. There's a whole, back rooms and storage rooms and so much going on in the background where things are happening, and they need us to constantly be able to delve deeper and further into it before we can even begin to unlock those rooms and storages and go in and look at what's going on in there to get to that next level, to that next understanding, to elevate ourselves and our understanding of this world and the things that we are being blessed with and the things that are being withheld from us for whatever reason. So if you find yourself constantly thinking, what am I supposed to do in the meantime until the manifestation comes, until Allah blesses me with it? Instead of thinking that you've done something wrong, instead of thinking that Allah is withholding from you because He doesn't want to give it to you or you're not worthy of it or whatever else, think, what more can I do? What can I revisit? What more could I delve into from a different perspective? What thing did I feel like I kind of brushed over a little bit quick just to kind of get it over with because it wasn't my favorite thing to do, that I perhaps could look into doing from a different perspective so that I could enjoy it more? Where do I need support and guidance? Whether it be from, literally contacting a person like myself, a coach, who can push you to the next level, to perhaps reading a book, joining a sisterhood, speaking to friends, getting a therapist, Things like that. Getting, if it's a manifestation around finance, getting an advisor, financial advisor, something like that, right? So think about the next things that you can do to expand on what is already there, what you've already done. That is what to do in the quote unquote meantime, because again, when we're looking at it, there is no in the meantime, because realistically, and think about this before you answer, the moment your prayers are answered, you don't stay there. Immediately you think, okay, next step. We all do this. So there's no, me shaming you for it or anything like that, because I know I do it myself. Every single one of us do it. So every time you get a manifestation, it feels good for a minute, but then you think, oh, now I just need to lose £5 and then it'll be perfect. And then when you lose the £5, and now I just need another £100 a month, money income. And now I need a bigger house, and then I need this. And so our dreams, the things that we want, continues to evolve. So the meantime really is a constant. It is always there. So we need to learn to be with the meantime in a way that brings us peace and a greater understanding of ourselves in the sabr. It is an active waiting. We're waiting the meantime. We're waiting for things to come, because we're always waiting for the next big thing in our lives, right? We're only humans. But what we're doing while we're in that meantime, while we're in the sabr, while we're in that active waiting, is we're constantly growing and we're helping ourselves to evolve and move on to that next level. So that is what you should be doing in the meantime. That right there should be your focus. Okay, my darling, I feel like I've said what I needed to say in this episode. If you've got any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. I am always super keen to hear your notes, your feedback, your aha moments, if there was any suggestions for future episodes, things like that. You know where to find me. Preferably over on Instagram at Manifesting Muslima, because we can exchange voice notes. You don't have to exchange a voice note. I personally just hate texting, so it's easier for me to send a voice note if I need to say something and it would be a long message. So feel free to message me over there with suggestions or notes or just general feedback. I love hearing from you. And until next time, my darling friend, I was just about to forget my own sign off. Until next time, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.